Chapter 25 of Stories from Pentamerone. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Joy Chan. Stories from Pentamerone by Giambattista Basile. Chapter 25. The Raven. It is truly a great proverb, rather a crooked sight than a crooked judgment. But it is so difficult to adopt it that the judgment of few men hits the nail on the head. On the contrary, in the sea of human affairs the greater part are fishers in smooth waters, who catch crabs, and he who thinks to take the most exact measure of the object at which he aims often shoots widest of the mark. The consequence of this is that all are running pell-mell, all toiling in the dark, all thinking crookedly, all acting child's play, all judging at random, and with a haphazard blow of a foolish resolution, bringing upon themselves a bitter repentance, as was the case with the King of Shady Grove. And you shall hear how it fared with him, if you summon me within the circle of modesty with the bell of courtesy, and give me a little attention. It is said that there was once a king of Shady Grove named Milluccio, who was so devoted to the chase that he neglected the needful affairs of his state and household to follow the track of a hare or the flight of a thrush. And he pursued this road so far that chance one day led him to a thicket, which had formed a solid square of earth and trees to prevent the horses of the sun from breaking through. There, upon a most beautiful marble stone, he found a raven which had just been killed. The king, seeing the bright red blood sprinkled upon the white, white marble, heaved a deep sigh and exclaimed, "O heavens! And cannot I have a wife as white and red as this stone, and with hair and eyebrows as black as the feathers of this raven?" And he stood for a while so buried in this thought that he became a counterpart to the stone, and looked like a marble image making love to the other marble. And this unhappy fancy fixing itself in his head, as he searched for it everywhere with the lanthorn of desire, it grew in 4 seconds from a pig-tooth to a pole, from a crab-apple to an Indian pumpkin, from barber's embers to a glass furnace, and from a dwarf to a giant, insomuch that he thought of nothing else than the image of that object encrusted in his heart as stone to stone. Wherever he turned his eyes that form was always presented to him which he carried in his breast, and forgetting all besides, he had nothing but that marble in his head. In short, he became in a manner so worn away upon the stone that he was at last as thin as the edge of a penknife, and this marble was a millstone which crushed his life, a slab of porphyry upon which the colours of his days were ground and mixed, a tinder-box which set fire to the brimstone match of his soul, a lodestone which attracted him, and lastly a rolling stone which could never rest. At length his brother Gennariello, seeing him so pale and half dead, said to him, "My brother, what has happened to you that you carry grief lodged in your eyes, and despair sitting under the pale banner of your face? What has befallen you? Speak, open your heart to your brother. The smell of charcoal shut up in a chamber poisons people. Powder pent up in a mountain blows it into the air. Open your lips, therefore, and tell me what is the matter with you. At all events, be assured that I would lay down 1,000 lives if I could to help you." Then Milluccio, mingling words and sighs, thanked him for his love, saying that he had no doubt of his affection, but that there was no remedy for his ill, since it sprang from a stone, where he had sown desires without hope of fruit, a stone from which he did not expect a mushroom of content, a stone of Sisyphus, which he bore to the mountain of designs, and when it reached the top, rolled over and over to the bottom. At length, however, after 1,000 entreaties, Milluccio told his brother all about his love, whereupon Gennariello comforted him as much as he could, and bade him be of good cheer, and not give way to an unhappy passion, for that he was resolved, in order to satisfy him, to go all the world over until he found a woman the counterpart of the stone. Then instantly fitting out a large ship filled with merchandise, and dressing himself like a merchant, he sailed for Venice, the wonder of Italy, the receptacle of virtuous men, the great book of the marvels of art and nature, and having procured there a safe conduct to pass to the Levant, he set sail for Cairo. When he arrived there and entered the city, he saw a man who was carrying a most beautiful falcon, and Gennariello at once purchased it to take to his brother, who was a sportsman. Soon afterwards he met another man with a splendid horse, which he also bought, whereupon he went to an inn to refresh himself after the fatigues he had suffered at sea. The following morning, when the army of the Star, at the command of the General of the Light, strikes the tents in the camp of the Sky and abandons the post, Gennariello set out to wander through the city, having his eyes about him like a lynx, looking at this woman and that, to see whether by chance he could find the likeness to a stone upon a face of flesh. And as he was wandering about at random, turning continually to this side and that, like a thief in fear of the constables, he met a beggar carrying an hospital of plasters and a mountain of rags upon his back, who said to him, "My gallant sir, what makes you so frightened?" "Have I, forsooth, to tell you my affairs?" answered Gennariello. "Faith, I should do well to tell my reason to the constable." "Softly, my fair youth," replied the beggar, "for the flesh of man is not sold by weight. If Darius had not told his troubles to a groom, he would not have become king of Persia. It will be no great matter, therefore, for you to tell your affairs to a poor beggar, for there is not a twig so slender but it may serve for a toothpick." When Gennariello heard the poor man talking sensibly and with reason, he told him the cause that had brought him to that country. Whereupon the beggar replied, "See now, my son, how necessary it is to make account of every one. For though I am only a heap of rubbish, yet I shall be able to enrich the garden of your hopes. Now listen. Under the pretext of begging alms, I will knock at the door of the young and beautiful daughter of a magician. Then open your eyes wide, look at her, contemplate her, regard her, measure her from head to foot, for you will find the image of her whom your brother desires." So saying, he knocked at the door of a house close by, and Liviella opening it, threw him a piece of bread. As soon as Gennariello saw her, she seemed to him built after the model which Milluccio had given him. Then he gave a good alms to the beggar and sent him away, and going to the inn he dressed himself like a pedlar, carrying in 2 caskets all the wealth of the world. And thus he walked up and down before Liviella's house crying his wares, until at length she called him, and took a view of the beautiful net caps, hoods, ribbons, gauze, edgings, lace, handkerchiefs, collars, needles, cups of rouge, and headgear fit for a queen, which he carried. And when she had examined all the things again and again, she told him to show her something else. And Gennariello answered, "My lady, in these caskets I have only cheap and paltry wares. But if you will deign to come to my ship, I will show you things of the other world, for I have there a host of beautiful goods worthy of any great lord." Liviella, who was full of curiosity, not to belie the nature of her sex, replied, "If my father indeed were not out, he would have given me some money." "Nay, you can come all the better if he is out," replied Gennariello, "for perhaps he might not allow you the pleasure. And I'll promise to show you such splendid things as will make you rave, such necklaces and earrings, such bracelets and sashes, such workmanship in paper. In short, I will perfectly astound you." When Liviella heard all this display of finery, she called a gossip of hers to accompany her, and went to the ship. But no sooner had she embarked than Gennariello, whilst keeping her enchanted with the sight of all the beautiful things he had brought, craftily ordered the anchor to be weighed and the sails to be set, so that before Liviella raised her eyes from the wares and saw that she had left the land, they had already gone many miles. When at length she perceived the trick, she began to act Olympia the reverse way. For whereas Olympia bewailed being left upon a rock, Liviella lamented leaving the rocks. But when Gennariello told her who he was, whither he was carrying her, and the good fortune that awaited her, and pictured to her moreover Milluccio's beauty, his valour, his virtues, and lastly the love with which he would receive her, he succeeded in pacifying her, and she even prayed the wind to bear her quickly to see the colouring of the design which Gennariello had drawn. As they were sailing merrily along, they heard the waves grumbling beneath the ship, and although they spoke in an undertone, the captain of the ship, who understood